Hello, happy Monday, everybody. It's Tamera Loerzel, and with me is Renee Moelders today because our partner Jennifer Wilson is in sunny Palm Springs. So she is out there with her family and for her birthday. So Renee, I'm so glad you could join me today.
Thank you, Tamera. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great. So Renee and I were talking about some of the topics that Jen and I have been covering, around HR and feedback last week, and remote and priorities for HR professionals. And one of the things that Renee said that is keeping her up at night these days is on remote internships. So we thought we would spend some time this afternoon and just share some insights and ideas about how to manage internships, given we're getting into internship season and we've been in campus recruiting. The CPA firms have been in campus recruiting. So Renee, why don't you share and jump in here and say what you're worrying about over there?
Yeah, Tamera, and we'll talk about remote internships, but I think also just remote onboarding in general. We might sort of seg over into that because, I think the college campuses are probably pushing firms to think about it. They're doing a lot of recruiting remotely right now. They're probably not going onto campus and doing events. But still, I'm just worried. You said I'm worried. And I'm a little bit worried that firms aren't ready or are just hitting the pause button. They're saying, well, I'll just wait until this whole COVID business is done. And, we'll do our internships after that's over. And that makes me nervous.
Yes. Well, and I think one of the things that we've been noticing is some firms have just really been re-engineering what they've been doing to make everything move to remote. And I know for our HR professionals, it's like program by program. When we talked about priorities, it's like, what do we need to do next? And what do we need to think of in this new blended environment, or maybe 100% remote in some cases, depending on where we are and what's happening. And I think the remote internships, are one of those that, and onboarding and recruiting. And so when we think about internships and we think about onboarding, Renee, what are some of the things that you're seeing firms do well in that area?
Well, I love that term that you used, re-engineer. So I think some professionals are mapping out all the different touch points and then thinking about how am I going to provide those remotely? And it doesn't look the same. It's not in the same order. It's like, it's dreaming up something different, but really starting with just mapping out all those points. Mm-hmm. One of the things I think is a challenge is the bumping into people in the hall. And Tamera, we've been hearing that as we're teaching these remote classes that people say, oh no, but like a partner will say, I'm not going to bump into these interns at the water cooler. I'm not going to see them in the kitchen. How am I going to get to know them? And we say, well, just schedule some time with them, or maybe have a happy hour where you put out a call and say, I'm going to be on the line for 30 minutes today. Come and join me. I want to get to know you. Or just see that they're green on Teams and reach out to them and say, hey, what are you up to today? How's it going so far? So just being more intentional about it. And I think HR professionals are going to have to schedule it. I just don't know how else. I think people will just try to get off the hook, won't do it. And so I think they're just going to have to say, partner A, you are assigned to these 3 interns. Be sure you touch them at least once a week. And just, sort of make sure that people are doing it. And then check in on the assignments. Don't just make them, but check back to make sure they're happening.
Yeah. That's a good point. We have always said management by walking around. And I think that's one of the things that people are missing in person is I do get to see people at the lunchroom, or I get to see people in the hallway. And I don't have that opportunity. So I have to get comfortable, like we've said, with the technology to be able to do that. And you made me think, we have an orientation checklist that we use. And we literally, in the spreadsheet say, Tamera needs to meet with Beth and, first of all, get introduced and acquainted, and then schedule a follow-up call and talk about the history of convergence coaching, or, talk about this topic, or teach her this, and Emily's going to do this. And so we make assignments so that we know that they're getting covered, but that also we know that those new people get those touch points. And I think that's important both for our interns and for any new people that we're recruiting is, what are those different touch points and making sure we're assigning them. and we can facilitate them, I think, virtually for the most part. We can share screens if we need to share technology, or we need to teach them our systems, or logins and navigating and whatever it might be, how to access client information. We can do all of that online, and so we just have to assign who's doing it and schedule it and make sure it's happening.
Yes. Well, and you said management by walking around, and Teams can be that, or whatever system you're using for status. You can see if someone's green or red. And then if they're green, that's like bumping them into them at the water cooler. And a chance to say, how are you?
Yep. Yeah. I also think, well, if we're using Teams or whatever else we're using, Zoom or whatever else we might be using, and we're doing some of that training, we can record it. And I know a lot of firms are doing a lot more recording of just even short topics, how-tos. And you can create a library then on your intranet or wherever you're storing that, that can have that information, captured, so that they can go back and reference it and they know where it is. So you not only get to train that person, that individual or that group of individuals that you happen to be with, but then I have it and I can share it with other people if they need a refresher, or if we have new people that didn't start the same day, that I can have access to some of those tools too. And that seems to be working pretty well, that on demand, learning.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and the other thing we should probably talk about is connections between the interns themselves.
Yes.
Because they usually come in, they're a class of people, they hang out together, they probably leave work together and go get a bite to eat after work, and they can't do that anymore. And so I would imagine if I were in that HR chair, I'd want to be setting up and sort of engineering some of those get-togethers.
Yes. Yeah, some opportunities for fun. What are we going to do to connect in that happy hour idea? And people hear us say happy hour and they're like, I don't want to be on Zoom with 50 people. That is not what we're talking about. So I just want to clarify that.
We love the breakout rooms. That's the breakout room. Do it. Yes.
For sure. And I hear rumors that Teams is going to do breakout rooms, but I don't think they have it yet.
Well, and Google Meet has some sort of breakout room feature. My daughter's using it for school.
Great. So there's all kinds of, technologies that we can do. It's not to have us all sit and stare at each other or try to talk over each other, because if I am networking with if I go to a networking function, whether it's an internal one or an external one, we go in, pods. We end up breaking down into 4 or 5 people, and you can do that with the breakout rooms. Give them 10 minutes. You can give them a couple, prompt questions or topics. They may or may not use it, but if they're stuck, if there's a bunch of introverts and they're like staring at each other, they can read the questions at the top of the screen. But that's a good way to mingle and get to know each other and have, some kind of, fun events to happen too.
I like that, Tamera. And we love our 2 Truths and a Lie game that we've been playing lately. That's a fun way to get to know people and learn a little something about them.
Yes, we've been doing that with our leadership programs, and they love getting guessing about each other, and they have snippets of information, so then they think that they know, but it's pretty fun to figure out what that is. So that there's all kinds of ideas like that. But I think you're right, Renee. That social side and that connection side is going to be really important. That we are creating that we have some intentional opportunities for that.
And I would go find anyone that lately went through an internship with us or an onboarding with us and have them come and sit with me and give me ideas. If I were an HR person thinking about how I can't remember what it was like to be in an internship or, how that worked. And so I would want to have those people come in and help me generate ideas and put that together.
I love that idea. And I think they can help you create your new program or re-engineer it. And we always say that. We always like to have our new people document our processes and write recaps and create training documents that we might be missing, because they're the freshest to it and they're applying it right now. So, and they have an empty desk for a few minutes. Everybody else, we have, our desk is full. If you're like us, your desk is full. And so they have an opportunity to be able to do that. And, I think another thing, Renee, I was thinking about when we were talking about these connections and fun, it's almost like we like to lay out the red carpet, for our interns and new campus recruits and, when we hire people. But I think, for those 2 groups, especially, what else could we do that would be special? And I'm sure we're doing things like sending firm swag, send a, box of goodies of firm swag. If we were going to have lunch with them, maybe we send them a gift basket and we have lunch and come together and have lunch together. There's just things that we could be doing that, again, re-engineer. If I think about what would I have done if they were in the office, what could we do to create the similar effect, the objective that we have? And in that case, it might be this feeling of connectedness, fun, team, those kinds of things. What could we do to facilitate that? I was doing a learning program last week, and one of the ladies spoke up and said, I am a new employee here, new campus college graduate, and I so appreciate people using video. She goes, it really has me get to know people. I know their faces. I can see their offices. I feel more connected. She goes, so I just really appreciate how this firm does that, which was awesome.
Oh, I love that, Tamera. I really do. Well, and as you were talking about rolling out the red carpet, I think there are so many fun things that we can do. There's also, if you think about, the goal is that it's a smooth experience, that when I get started, I know where I'm supposed to be. I know who I'm supposed to meet with. The big no-no is that I'm kind of sitting around twiddling my thumbs, or people say, oh, no, we didn't know you were coming. And so we do want to do some organization ahead of time and think about, how are we going to get people technology? How are we going to make sure they can connect with an IT person to get that all set up, get their passwords set up? It needs to still have that kind of organized approach, even though it's happening in a different manner.
Well, and you might grab somebody to attend a meeting, or, go to a client, or, sit in on something. And I know it's like, if they're right there, they're top of mind, I can grab them. So that intentionality that you're talking about, planning out, where could we have them sit and participate? Where could we have them be on video, introduce them as one of our interns or a new hire? I don't know very many clients at all that would object to that. Or, if we're trying to get them indoctrinated into, some of the happenings of the firm, just have them participate, have them, sit in and participate. And if we've moved, which I think we have, a lot of our town halls or team meetings, our huddles are happening virtual. Let's make sure we have the schedule for that. What is the schedule that they need to know about, and make sure it's on their calendars, and make sure that they've got all the invitations and the links, and know who the contact person is, so that if they have questions or can't find something, they know who to go to.
And that we're celebrating them for a while every time they show up at that stuff. I would use those. I love that. And every time they come, I'd say, oh, we're so glad you're here. Welcome. Even 2 weeks in, that we're stopping and sort of celebrating them, since we can't see them and we can't, be with them. Be sure we're considering those touch points.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, and so anything else on the onboarding side, as we think about it, maybe more broader? Well,
we have a great article on that, Tamera. So let's be sure that we include that. I think you said we can include some resources in this. And so it's called All Aboard, and it's, about how do you get people smoothly on board when they're remote. And it has some great tips and tricks that we've used over the years. A point person. I think that's the other thing. And I would give them multiple point persons. I'd give them someone that's at their level, that can be, answer all the questions that they might feel embarrassed to ask a boss or not want to ask their manager. And then I would also give them a manager level, or someone at a level above them, that's checking in with them on a regular basis. Both of those people, a couple of times a week. And, probably the first week, every day. And then I'm envisioning a mix of some self-service. You talked about recording, or we have our new people do a lot of reading. They research our website. We have articles that we give them. So I would want to have a mix. I wouldn't want someone to sit for a whole week and just do self-service. So, a couple of hours of working on it on your own, and then come back and let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, and as you're planning that, first couple of weeks, I think is critical. And I think some of us have learned the hard way that, if we don't make the onboarding experience spectacular, that it can set the tone, for the relationship with our firm. And so we want it to be really great. That applies to clients too, by the way. So, I mean, almost everything we say on the HR side with our people, we can translate it to clients, and their onboarding experience has to be pristine as well. And it could feel a little disjointed, with the technology. And we want them to know that this is how we're working. This is how we're building relationships. This is how we are going to communicate together. This is how we're going to work on projects together. We're going to share screens, and so that they know that. And then, the training, if we're doing any kind of training, again, that breakout rooms, those different technologies, Zoom, we like Zoom, but there's others like Renee was mentioning, we can put them into breakout rooms, and they can have work tables, just like I was in a classroom. And so then I can have a table, table master or somebody that's managing each table that's in that workroom that I can, assign that to, and then they know what they're going to do. So, we're seeing firms have success with it, and there's a lot to plan and get ready between now and January. We have a few short weeks of proactive time, and we think that that's the thing to be paying attention to is who's going to be here, what do they need, how do we make sure that we're transitioning them in and thinking about each of those constituents. And I do think those new people are the ones that get lost.
Yes, definitely. Well, and don't be scared about, you said something, it needs to be pristine. It needs to be smooth. And this time, first time around, the first time you do something, there are going to be bumps in the road. So I would also be telling all my new interns, I'd be honest and vulnerable about the fact we're building this program. Everything's changed. We're going to do our best, and we want to hear from you. If you think it could have been done differently. Today, I went to the doctor's office, and when I got there, I read the email. It said, just come up. So I went up, and they said, we're not ready for you. You have to call first. I said, well, that's not in your email. So I think just giving that feedback to people, and ask your interns, tell us what works and what doesn't work. And we're going to use that to make it better for you and people that come behind you. So a mix of pristine and we're working on the fly here.
And grace. I hear you saying grace, Renee, yes. Right? Like this is what our goal is. And we need some grace for all of us, for us. And we would like some, but we also want feedback. We want to get better. And, we're building this. We're building this thing together. So how can we, best facilitate that?
Yeah.
You made me think of another place, I think with our interns and maybe our new recruits, that sometimes there's a gap in between when we make them the offer and when they actually start. And that's the other place to make sure that we have some touch points. Because I might have an intern that's not going to start till January, and they accepted in October, this, last recruiting season or whatever, or maybe even prior, but let's just pretend they accepted here in October. They're not going to start till January after the holidays. That buddy idea that you were making, who is assigned to them to have some touch points a couple times a month in November and in December, and what are we doing?
More than we've ever done it before. I definitely would, Tamera. I think that's really smart. Well, the other thing is you have some work to do ahead of time, and probably more. Like in the past, you made sure they were set up for their first day, and they thought about, maybe you told them something about how to dress and what to expect. But I think now you need to send them technology. You need to figure out how you're going to get them passwords. So there is an awful lot more that we have to do, and we need to be communicating more often in advance, I think.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Well, and I wonder, if we're going to be doing a holiday happy hour, if we could invite them to that, or, I think that some of the stuff, again, we would have done in person. So could we do that here? And can we reach out? Maybe they have finals coming up, and maybe we would have done some things around finals for them. What are we going to do remote? And maybe that buddy is assigned to check in and say, how is it going? And, what are you studying? And, if there's anything I can help you on, let me know. I've been through it. So
maybe we give some information to the people who are touching base of questions they can ask them too. Because I think some of your buddies will say well, I don't know what to talk to these kids about. And so we could give them a script and some ideas.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. We could say, here's what they might have going on right now, or Thanksgiving, send them just a Thanksgiving greeting. They probably are coming up on finals. I know some colleges have accelerated finals. They're trying to get it all done before Thanksgiving, so we don't have that come back and forth.
Right.
the risk of, spreading the virus. And so just understanding, know what that is, and then check in on, finals, check in on their setup, at home, check in on their commute if they are going to be coming to the office, and talk to them about what we're doing and, what our process is. Like you said, the email says, come right in, but wait a minute, we're not ready for you. What is our protocol? And so making sure we're talking to them about that. We can do all of that up front in advance of their first day. So there's lots of touch points that we could have. I think that's probably the biggest message.
And surely the universities and colleges are providing information on this. I've been doing a ton of learning about remote internships just from colleges, putting information out online for free. And so I suspect if you would go and talk to your colleges that you usually recruit with, or talk to career services, get online and do some research, there must be great data out there about, how your particular colleges are going to be handling it, therefore where your kids are, your interns that are coming in. We shouldn't call them kids, but
yes, our new intern professionals. So, and like Renee said, we will put a link to that article that she referenced, and you can always reach out to us. I think we're about at time there, Renee. So I'm so glad that you came to talk about this with me today. So it's so important, I think, for us to plan and prepare.
Yeah, and I'm just glad we're getting this information out there, Tamera. So thanks for bringing it up. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, great. All right. Have a great week, everybody. We will see you next Monday. Thank you.
Bye-bye.